Hey guys, this is Jordan, and today I'm doing some reposted content, just updating it and changing a few things, because I felt like the start of this video was kind of negative how it started, and didn't really reflect how I wanted to present this with. And I understand, like, people coming home after work or school, and then they see my content and it's like all depressing and stuff. And I decided I wanted to update it because I wanted more people to see it and to understand it and understand that I'm currently dealing with this. And I made some changes to the video as well that kind of reflect that kind of growth that I've had over the last year. And just my outlook on life has kind of changed. So I decided to update a few of the parts in it. Sorry if it's not like made content now, but like old content I did back in like July. But we'll see what happens with this video and if I get more views on it. And thank you guys so much for joining, subscribing to me. I really appreciate that. And yeah, without further ado, take it away, old me. Hey guys, this is Jordan. And once again, I'm making another video on some personal, deep topics that I'm dealing with in my life, and maybe you can relate if you deal with it. And today's topic is talking about my medical journey with my diagnosed condition, which is scoliosis. So when I was 14, I was about to turn 15, we went on this trip to Hawaii as a family, and I was putting on my swimsuit, and my sister, she's always annoying sometimes. I shouldn't say always annoying, she's just annoying sometimes. Is like, Jordan, your back looks like a woman's back or something. And the reason why she said that, I thought she just meant that I have, I don't know, extra curves or something. I don't know, she always teased me about how I looked and stuff, so I just thought she was being mean to me. But she was like, she told my mom to come look, and this is when I started to be like, oh, she's actually serious about this. Here's kind of what it looked like from behind. Here's what it looks like without the x-ray. Here's what it would look like if it was normal, though. The red line being like it being straight. Or any of you ask and be like, well, how didn't you notice? Like, it's your spine. Were you having any symptoms? Was anything happening? And the main thing was like my shoulder kind of does this thing where it kind of clicks a little. And I noticed that like earlier in that year, but I didn't really make any note of it really and thought it, it was like nothing. But I mean, it's not that noticeable. And then another thing was I had like my clothes in some parts were like a little bit fitting weirdly. So like I always had to adjust my clothes. But I just thought that was like because I was very skinny and like I didn't fill out clothes that much. So, I didn't know what it was. Mom comes by and she's like, oh yeah, his back is a little bit, weird. It goes like this instead of like this. And at first I wasn't believing them. I was like, no, you got, maybe this is just a normal thing and people's spines are just normally like this. So I went on the beach and I was looking at people's backs because that's what a normal person does on the beach, right? You wait until you can see people's spines. You're like, oh, can I, I can't see her spine, it's under that bra, or you can't see people's spines sometimes, and it starts to get annoying and you get agitated and you're like, oh no, I can't see that person's spine, he's fat, hey, it's just, frustration that everyone can relate with. Total, relatable story here. Well, anyways, I was walking out into the water and my sister kept pointing it out, and she's like, well, because I was skinny, I was dealing with anorexia, I was very, very malnourished, and, luckily I was, because you wouldn't have ever been able to tell I have this condition if I wasn't. They noticed it, and So my mom before we got back to Minnesota, I was taking a shower and I was just crying because I was like, what's wrong with me? I felt very disgusting and scared and overwhelmed. I went into bed and my sister showed me her phone and it showed this person with scoliosis, and it scared me so badly. I was like, that is not my spine. I don't know what this could be. It's no way is it that. So I just thought, no way, my spine looks like that. So we get back to Minnesota and I'm just like researching on my phone what this could be, and I'm like, oh, is it? I found different spine conditions that could be. I'm like, oh, what's a curve in the spine, and what's it, and I kept trying to find it, and I found it again, and it was scoliosis, and I was like, no way do I have that. I just didn't believe it. I kept feeling my spine like this and thinking, oh, it's fine. It's, it doesn't feel abnormal. But every time I did that, I think it was like almost OCD. I would check again to see if it was weird, or I would lean against a wall to feel one of my shoulder blades pressing harder on the wall than the other one. This was very weird. And I started to feel like, this arm was, I was feeling my rib cage on this arm more so than this arm, and I was like, what? That's not normal. And the year before I was diagnosed with scoliosis, I actually learned that, my shoulder, when I go like this, clicks. And, I was worried that there's something wrong with me for over a year, and I didn't say anything to anyone because I was scared that I was going to have to go to the hospital and there was something seriously wrong with me, and I couldn't do that. I didn't want to say anything to people because I didn't want people to worry about me. I ended up going to the hospital when I was 15, and they did a scan of my back, and they're like, do you want to see your back? And I'm like, no, I don't want to see it, because I had already known that it was going to look weird, and I was terrified to see it. They recommended a specialist down at Gillette Children, and then I met with my doctor, Dr. Beauchamp, and we did some x-rays that March, because in February they rescheduled the appointment, luckily, because it was supposed to be right away. It was supposed to be a month after that one. But luckily they rescheduled it to March. So I'm going to describe the time leading up to that. We kept getting letters in the mail from Gillette Children's, and I would do this thing where I would go downstairs and kind of look at it and want to see what's inside of it without like opening it, because I was like, what are they saying? Like, what's going on? What, are they saying secret things about like my spine that I don't know about? Like, I was just very nervous about it, and I think maybe it was like about the insurance or something else that was, not really relating to the medical part of it, or maybe it was like a welcome note or something, or like explaining the ins and the outs of like Gillette Children's. And then I was very nervous to go there, and he's like, yeah, you have scoliosis, but it's not that bad. And he's like, you don't need to do anything. We're just going to observe this. You're going to be fine. Most boys don't get it severe, and you'll probably just grow normally. You're almost done growing, because I was 15. But how boys can grow even after they're, 15, 16, 17. There's this thing called a Risser scale, and basically it determines how mature your bones are and if they've ossified or not. So a Risser of 0 means that there has been no ossification. A Risser of 5 means that there has been full ossification, basically meaning that you're a full adult. Here's what a hand looks like. And basically what needs to happen is the little pockets between the fingers need to fuse together. I almost said reservication. You've been reservified. That's not a thing. But what it is a thing is, when I went there the first time, I had 3 curves. My top one was 22 degrees or something. The second one was 32 degrees, so it was like the big guy. And then the third one, the bottom one, was kind of like this, and it was like 18 degrees, I think. So the biggest issue was the 32 degrees and the multiple curves, because having more than one curve means that it's more likely to progress. But they didn't think it would progress, so they were like doing the wait and see model. I went back there that September, 6 months later, and it had progressed to a point where, they were even considering surgery for me. It had gotten really bad, and it had progressed 10 degrees, so instead of being a 32-degree angle, it was now a 42-degree angle, which was a very quick progression, and they usually don't see that much in 6 months. So they thought that I had some sort of cancer, so I had to go through this machine. MRI. Oh yeah, funny story. So when I was prepping for my MRI, the woman there, I asked her if she had scoliosis, and she was like, I have mild scoliosis. And I'm like, I couldn't even tell. And then she told me, oh, I couldn't even tell that you had scoliosis. And I'm like, well, it's kind of hard to tell if someone has it a lot of the time. Especially if it's even 45 degrees, you can't really tell a lot of the time unless they don't have their shirt on or, yeah. And try to figure out if I might have cancer or something. And that was a bit nerve-wracking. My parents were distraught about this. They're like, they were freaking out now. Because before, my parents had said, you just need to chill out. It's going to be okay. The tests are going to come back normal. You're going to be fine. The test did not come back normal, and my neck was out of alignment with my hips, and everything was really bad. And I was really scared that it would get to the point of surgery. If it was 8 degrees more, I would have to get surgery. So we acted fast on it. They made me a cast that October, and I started wearing it in November. And for that next year, they would do scans every 6 months of my spine, and they would try to figure out the progression. In the brace, it didn't progress. It actually regressed a bit, but, I was very excited about that. But I was nervous that, because, when you take the brace off and you stop wearing it, that bad stuff would happen and, it would progress again. So, before I forget, this is the brace I had to wear 19/7. So, yeah, you can see that's got this padding in it, and it kind of has this chest open area so you can breathe. And yeah, how they make that brace is a very interesting way of doing it. Basically they mold it to your body, and they kind of put this gel over top of this saran wrap looking thing, and they mold that out, and then they take that, they create a brace out of it. And you can actually melt these braces down and recycle them into new braces for different people, which I think is really cool, and I might do that with mine eventually. And another thing is, I remember the torture it was to first put this thing on in the hospital. And we went down to the cafeteria, and I'm sitting there wearing this brace, and I'm eating just 2 slices of pizza. I wasn't even eating much. I could just feel the pressure on my stomach, because that's what the brace does. It kind of compresses here, but there's this open area here, but it's a little obstructed to get bloated. So I had to always peel it off, kind of adjust. It also sucked to sit down. I couldn't sit down comfortably anymore, because the back of it, basically it's a little longer, so you sit down and it's it goes against the chair like this, so I had to always sit like this now. So I couldn't go like this or sit like this. I had to sit like this. And for those desks at the schools, they need to invent new things, let me tell you. They need to scrap those things, burn them, and then recycle them, get some like chairs that are soft and like squishy. I don't know. It just like cumbersome, basically. That's how I would describe it. But sleeping was actually optimal. It was very comfortable because it felt like it was like hugging against me. And then showers was also another thing that was very different. You had to take it off for an hour. Like I think you had to wear it like 19/7. So there's at least 5 hours a day I had to take it off for. And also my back, since I was in a brace for so long, has become weak. My whole entire vertebrae has become weaker than it would have if I had not had scoliosis. So yeah, that was nerve-wracking. And during this time I told my nephew that I had scoliosis, and he's my best friend, and he was like, "Oh no, I'm sorry you have that." And he was very supportive of me, and he didn't tease me or anything. My sister would tease me though, because sometimes she would sometimes tease me and make me feel insecure about it. And this is part of the reason why I wanted to take my own life, was because I didn't want to have surgery. I didn't want to be put under so much stress and so much pain. This was the most pain I had ever felt in my entire life, potentially feel in my entire life. And it was nerve-wracking to think about it. And I could be cut open anytime and have a rod inserted into me and have these steel nails and stuff in me, and I didn't want that. That was really scary, and I didn't want to live knowing that that could happen to me. So I wrote a suicide note, and luckily I didn't act upon it. And my mom knew I wrote this note. She found it the next day and asked me about it, and I just awkwardly said, "I don't know anything about that." So I was going to the doctor's that day when she found out about that, and it was very concerning to her. Hey, I also wanted to add that there's a higher percentage of autistic people diagnosed with scoliosis for whatever reason. I don't know why that is, and if someone knows, or has theories on that, you can write in the comment section. Also, more women are diagnosed with scoliosis, and for them, it progresses a lot faster than males do. So, a lot of the doctors would assume that, my scoliosis would not progress as much because I'm a man. So, they didn't really think it would go any faster. And it doesn't have to do with estrogen differences. When I went on estrogen, they didn't think it would progress any faster. It didn't. So it's a biological sex difference that men and women have with their bodies, which is scoliosis, and its prevalence and how fast it progresses. 1/3 of people that have scoliosis are men. 2/3 are women. That's why on YouTube you'll probably see a lot more women with scoliosis and talking about it. And the men that do have it way less than women, and it doesn't progress as fast for us, usually, but sometimes it does. In fact, when I went to my other scoliosis doctor, I had two of them, Dr. Beauchamp and Dr. Guido. Guido was the one that made my scoliosis brace. He told me that only 20% of the patients he sees with scoliosis are men. So I was in a very low category, and then I was even in a lower category that I might have needed surgery. But since I'm autistic, my risk for it increased for whatever reason, because there's a gene that must be within autistic people that increases our likelihood for scoliosis and its progressive qualities. In fact, my sister doesn't have scoliosis at all, and she's just had back issues, and for whatever reason, I was diagnosed with it. By the way, if I didn't have scoliosis, this is a fun fact. I would be, right now I'm 5'9.5", but the doctors think I'd be 5'10.5" or something if I didn't have scoliosis. So I'd be almost my dad's height, which he's like 5'11". So the reason why I'm a little bit short is because of my back being fucked up. So it's I don't know, because me and my sister are the same height basically, but she, since she doesn't have scoliosis, we're basically the same height. But yeah, she's like 5'9". She's really tall. Back to the video. Nerve-wracking to deal with the body dysmorphia of scoliosis, which comes with it. You're so different from your classmates, and no one else is dealing with such a weird diagnosis like this. And you feel very isolated in this situation, and you start to compare people's, you're like, well, this person has a straight back and I don't have that. And I was so nervous to go change in the boys' locker room, and everyone was asking, are you gay? Why don't you want to go into the boys' locker room? And it was because I didn't want people to see my messed up spine. And I felt very disfigured, and I needed a change in the boys' bathroom and hide my insecurities from my male peers and stuff. And and in gym class I would have to have this off, and when I showered I had to have it off. And in class I was teased by this one other autistic boy that took advantage of me and teased me and thought that this was okay to do because it was my Chromebook inside of my shirt and not a medical device that was trying to help me. So that made it worse, was some of the bullying. So I got very weak and kind of crippled, I guess. And it was very isolating to feel very disabled. And, I couldn't really relate to any of my classmates because none of them had to deal with this, not that I knew of. So I felt like an oddball. I felt, like I said, disfigured. I felt broken, and I felt ashamed, and that amplified my body dysmorphia really badly and almost made me want to take my life. So yeah, I don't recommend teasing people about this. I don't recommend being insensitive to people about this, because it is really hard to deal with. And just have some empathy, have some sympathy for people that have to deal with this, because it is tough. And yeah, so I almost got surgery, and then after a year of wearing it all day for 19 hours straight, I got down to just wearing it at night. And this was around April 2021. So I wore it from October 2019 to April 2021. And luckily within that time, my scoliosis didn't progress anywhere past 42 degrees. And it had actually slowed down, and luckily I didn't need surgery, and I have to only go back there every couple years instead of every 6 months. But it's still a tough battle, and to know that one day I'm going to need surgery is still very scary. And anyone that has to deal with some type of medical condition that they're eventually going to need surgery for, you gotta sympathize with them. You got to make them feel welcomed, not isolated, not feeling alone in this situation that feels very isolating. And just know that you're there for them. And luckily, when I was really dealing with it badly, my balance was off, and I couldn't really get around as well as I used to, which was a bit scary because I was only 15, and you just take your mobility for granted when you're 15. You don't think anything bad's going to happen to you until something bad does happen to you, and then it hits you like that, and you're just like, well, now I'm not able-bodied as I used to be, and it's just a surprise because you don't think it's going to happen to you, but it does. Here's the first image of my back taken. This was after I got off the trip. Here's the next one. This was taken 2 months later. This is right before it got really bad. This is when it was, when I had a brace. This is after I had a brace. And here's the most recent one. Fun fact, they can't exactly measure the exact angle of scoliosis. They're always at a 5-degree loss, either one way or another. I forget what this is exactly called, the terminology to it, but basically they can't 100% accurately say what your curvature is of your spine. Thank you guys for watching, and if you guys have any questions in the comment section, I'll answer them. But yeah, this journey with this condition has been very tough for me, and I would really hope that, people would support me and not make me feel isolated and such. So, yeah. Bye, guys.